What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, yes, indeed, I finally got some time to go ahead and play the Modern Warfare 3 campaign. Of course, in today's review, I'm not going to be mentioning any spoilers, so you don't have to worry about it. No spoilers in the gameplay. I'm just going to show you some multiplayer, and no spoilers in the commentary. I'm just going to be talking about the general flow of the campaign itself, and, I'll rate it, obviously. And at the very end of this video, I will mention a few spoilers, because there are some things I want to go ahead and discuss, but of course, I will let you guys know way ahead of time before that happens, so you guys can bounce out of the video before we go ahead and discuss those topics. But first and foremost, I do want to go ahead and thank each and every one of you guys who tuned into the stream, not only to watch it, because I know some people didn't want to play Modern Warfare 3 campaign in the first place, so you guys came and watched my stream specifically. Out of all the people out there to watch, you guys chose me, so I really do appreciate that. Thank you guys for all the love, and even to the people who didn't want to watch the campaign for me, but still put my stream up in the background to give us a little bit more, boost out there for views over on Twitch and Kick. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. The support you guys show me is just absolutely insane. Of course, if you guys want to keep up with my content over on the streams, I do stream pretty much daily besides Sundays over on Kick. You can find a link to that down in the description of this video. And also don't forget, subscribe and hit that bell if you want to stay up to date on more content just like this coming up in the near future. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, I do want to go ahead and address the title. I know I put Sledgehammer Games in the title, but in all reality, I'm pretty positive. I'm like 9 out of 10 positive that Infinity Ward are the ones who went ahead and put together this campaign. I think this is the same situation as we had back in the day with Modern Warfare 3. Sledgehammer made multiplayer. Infinity Ward is making campaign. And since obviously zombies being added into the mix, I think Treyarch is obviously going to be going ahead and working on that. But again, it's not confirmed by Activision, so I'm still going to put Sledgehammer in the title for this campaign review. But in all reality, it probably was Infinity Ward who put this together. But at the end of the day, how was the campaign? It was actually not as bad as I was expecting. I really was expecting it to be not the best thing in the world because obviously, it felt kind of rushed to get this game out there, and I didn't think they had enough time to go ahead and put it together. But in reality, it was pretty darn solid. I think one of the biggest highlights is the open mission format, being able to roam around a lot of the maps. Now, I will say it's not completely the best thing in the world because I feel like Call of Duty is much more better as a linear title. And there were practically no linear missions. There might have been like 1, maybe 2, possibly 3 if we're lucky at most when it came to linear missions. The mass majority of them were all open world. But they weren't bad. For myself personally, I ran through a lot of the missions because I was just more focused on the storyline because I wanted to put together this review here. But when it comes to exploration and discovering stuff and finding collectibles, it was pretty unique and interesting. I thought it was a cool concept. It just needs to be built off of a little bit more. Again, it feels like it didn't have enough time in the oven, didn't have enough time to cook to make it something that was completely awesome. They needed a little bit more time to, I guess, brainstorm and make it a bit more creative. But again, after seeing it finally be implemented into a game, it's definitely a concept that I wouldn't hate to see in the future. Because again, remember, Black Ops 4 was supposed to have the same exact format. There was supposed to be a campaign in Black Ops 4 that was going to be open world, and it got completely scrapped for Battle Royale. So I guess this is their time to try to go ahead and incorporate it into Call of Duty. And I will say it's not really a miss. I thought the map layouts were really cool, unique, and I am a tad bit sad that we're not getting any original maps at the beginning or launch of Modern Warfare 3 because a lot of these maps would have been really cool if they, kind of condensed them down and took certain segments of them and incorporated them into multiplayer. I would have loved to see that because the mass majority of the map layouts were phenomenal in campaign. Absolutely great. But I will say, I hope that if they do keep this format of open world, combat, open world exploration, I hope they do a little bit more 50-50 instead of doing everything open world because, like I said, at the end of the day, Call of Duty is much more of a linear style campaign. And even though it's fun to branch off, I still think they should have a decent amount of linear missions just to stay true to what they really are instead of forcing everybody to only play open world all the time. I personally think Modern Warfare 2 2022 did the open world missions a lot better because they didn't overdo it. You had like a couple, maybe a few open world missions and the rest of the campaign was all on rails, which again, I think the Call of Duty community prefers a lot more. And, if they had the extra creativity that they had with the Modern Warfare 3 open world missions in Modern Warfare 2 2022, I think that would be the key point. Have like 2 to 3, maybe 4 open world missions that are very, in-depth, creative. You can explore, you can find stuff, but keep it at that. The rest of the campaign should probably be on rails in the future. Also, I would like to go ahead and mention that this campaign is a tad bit on the shorter side of things. Obviously, Call of Duty campaigns have always been short. It's very typical for COD campaigns not really to last that long. 6 to 8 hours, I would say, is the average. But I ran through this campaign in about 4.5 hours. I would say 4 hours and 20 minutes. I finally finished up the campaign. Now, I will say I played on recruit difficulty. Well, was it recruit or was it was a normal difficulty, so it wasn't too hard because again, I wanted to make sure I completed it so I can make this review for you guys as soon as possible. But with all honesty, like I said, it took me about 4.5 hours to complete, which is definitely on the shorter end of things. Now, that playtime will be extended if, of course, you play it on a higher difficulty, or if you explore the maps more often, because again, I wanted to just stick to the main storyline of things. I wanted to see what the campaign story was all about, so I didn't explore as much as I wanted to. Obviously, I'm going to go back and do so. But if you are just more focused on the campaign story itself and you just want to run through that, yeah, it'll probably take you on average about 4 to 4.5 hours, maybe 5 hours if you die a handful of times, which again puts this on the shorter side of things, but that's not really the biggest concern for me because, like I said before, Call of Duty campaigns are typically pretty short. But overall, ladies and gentlemen, I gotta say, this campaign was really extremely mid, and you could probably hear it in my voice right now. Typically after I play something that I really enjoy, I'm really turnt, but I feel how I sound, just kind of neutral. It was cool. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I like the creativity of it, but it further confirms that it just feels like DLC. It really does. It feels like it didn't have any time in the oven. That didn't have any time to cook. It was a rushed out project. Activision turned a game that was just going to be a campaign DLC with maybe Modern Warfare 2 maps into a full-fledged out game, and they had to rush this thing out. And again, the campaign just simply feels like DLC. It doesn't feel like a full-fledged out creative project with a lot of time behind it, even down to the writing itself. Again, without giving out any spoilers. Of course, we'll save that for the very end of this video when we go into the spoiler section. But the ending was very lackluster in this game. It did not hit the way that I wanted it to hit. It was very underwhelming. Same thing with the no Russian tease. I really expected way more. Again, I guess I shouldn't be expecting craziness in the time of day that we live where everybody's so sensitive, but, it is what it is. It just wasn't that insane. It didn't really make me say, whoa, like, it almost got me a little bit, in the beginning of the no Russian segment. I was like, okay, this is starting to cook up a little bit, and then it's like, afterwards, it didn't really hit. Same thing with later on, it was a second, version where you see Makarov again, which again, I won't go into spoilers and expose anything, but that was a little bit better, but again, a little lackluster. I think that we need to have more moments where you play as the villains. You have the perspective of the villains. The very first mission, which I can go ahead and, talk about because clearly we all saw it at Call of Duty Next. It's the prison break mission. That was pretty gosh darn fun. You got to see from the, the enemy's perspective of what's going on here. And it helped build up when you go to the good guys side of things to want to fight back. And it's just not enough. Back in the OG days of COD, yeah, they got a lot of backlash, but I mean, it was just so much more eventful. It really was way more eventful back in the day compared to current date. And it's hard to rate this title because it seems like the campaigns are getting worse and worse in the Modern Warfare franchise. Modern Warfare 2019 was pretty dang good. I liked it for the campaign. Multiplayer, meh, but the campaign was really solid. I think it's probably one of the better ones. And then Modern Warfare 2 came along and it was worse. Wasn't completely bad, but it was worse. And Modern Warfare 3 is kind of on the same level as Modern Warfare 2 for me. Obviously, there'll be some people out there that think Modern Warfare 2 is better than Modern Warfare 3 when it comes to campaign, but I think that they're pretty much, kind of even. Arguably, Modern Warfare 3 might be a tad bit more creative and better, but I think it just doesn't surpass Modern Warfare 2 because, like I said, the ending and just all the other things that were hinted and, shown to us just didn't really hit how they should have hit. It just simply left me with a lot of questions. And yeah, sometimes that's good in campaigns, but this wasn't the good type of questions, right? It wasn't like, the cliffhangers that I'm really enjoying, that I really want. It was just kind of like, again, meh. The whole campaign just left a meh taste in my mouth. Honestly, the best part about this campaign was probably the end cutscene. For everybody who's, going to go ahead and play the campaign for themselves, make sure you don't skip through the credits. It's going to be another cutscene at the very end like they did. I think they did it in Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 2019. I'm not sure about Modern Warfare 2019, but they definitely did in Modern Warfare 2. So make sure you sit through the credits, see the end cutscene, because that is probably the best part about the whole campaign. That was really good. But that, you shouldn't have to wait for the end credits, where the majority of people will probably even skip it anyways to get the best part of the whole campaign. I would probably have to rate this thing a 6.5 out of 10. Arguably, possibly a 7. I like the creativity. I like the steps that they tried to take to make it a bit more creative and different than your typical Call of Duty campaign. But it just simply didn't have enough time in the oven. This is something that probably needed another year's worth of work to not only, continue making the writing better, but also making the actual worlds you play in better. Again, I love the environments. I think the environments are incredibly creative, and I really enjoy exploring them, walking around them, and just engaging in them. And of course, like I said earlier, I would love to see them actually incorporate a lot of these environments into a multiplayer environment as well. 6v6, of course. but that's not good enough. The environments can look cool, but if the storytelling is bad, then that's it. Call of Duty has always been a linear style game where the storytelling is kind of the key. That and obviously, insane Michael Bay explosives and stuff. But even minus the Michael Bay explosives, still, the Call of Duty story writing has always been pretty darn good. And I will say one more thing as well. If they're going to do more open world stuff like this, bring in co-op, please. It would make it so much more engaging. You don't have anybody else fighting with you. You might have, Soap or Ghost or Price, whoever is off in the distance, maybe sniping every once in a while. But it's just not as engaging as having a bunch of, not a bunch of people, but a unit with you, actually trying to navigate these worlds and, complete missions. They've done it before, like World at War, for example. Co-op was fantastic in that game. It was tons of fun. I love playing co-op with friends, trying to fight for better scores. They could have easily incorporated that into Modern Warfare 3. It would have probably been no hassle whatsoever. But I don't know. Again, it wasn't done, and I'm sure it's not going to happen anytime in the future, but that would have been a great way of making that. That would have probably, risen the ranking up a little bit more. I could have given this game a confident 7 or 7 out of 5 out of 10 if co-op was implemented, but without it, it just makes it more dull. And like I said, it dumbs it down to a 6.5 to 7. But as you guys already know, campaign isn't, the main factor of COD. It always falls back on zombies or multiplayer. So it's not the giving, factor of this game being horrible. If the campaign is just meh, that doesn't mean the game is going to be trash. My suggestion would be wait for this game to go on sale to get multiplayer. And if you want to see the campaign, go on YouTube and watch a playthrough. That would be my suggestion. It's not really worth playing through it yourself. I'll be completely real, and I don't think it's worth $70 to play this campaign. Which might lead you guys to the mindset of, why would you say, well done Sledgehammer Games then in the title, if this is the response that you have to the campaign? Well, I'm saying well done Sledgehammer because, again, even though it was a meh campaign, I give them respect where respect is due. Realistically, it doesn't matter who made the campaign. If Infinity Ward made the campaign, then they had no time to put it together. And if Sledgehammer Games made the campaign, they had no time to put it together either. Vanguard, what? This game is maybe a few years after Vanguard, I think. It was Vanguard, Modern Warfare 2, the Modern Warfare 3 here, so a couple of years, and they had to do it last second to make DLC. And if Infinity Ward put together this campaign, which is exactly who I think put it together, they made campaign, Sledgehammer made multiplayer, Treyarch made zombies, they had 1 year to put this together, probably even less. They just got done making Modern Warfare 2, and that to put together the Modern Warfare 3 campaign. They had no time to write this, and it shows. It really shows they had no time to put this together. They had to force this out as fast as possible to meet Activision's agenda, which it all boils down to being Activision's fault. But for the time that they had, yes, it's not as bad as I expected. With a year, maybe even less of time to put this together, the open world environment is creative enough. The storytelling isn't the best of the best, but it's still there. And, there's still other aspects of that make it interesting. It's just, again, it really shows that, one, it could be DLC, and two, it's just completely rushed. If whoever put this together, Infinity Ward or Sledgehammer, had more time, like I said earlier, an extra year of development, it could have been way better, which is why I say, well done. For the time that Activision gave you for being rushed through this project and having to force it out because Activision is scummy as hell, you did what you could do, and, it is what it is. Just hopefully in the future we can polish these things off, and if you want to keep open world, one, make sure it doesn't take over the whole game. Have some more linear missions in there, because literally this whole game was open world missions, which, again, if that's not your cup of tea, then you might not enjoy it whatsoever. And two, maybe add a little co-op and just be more in-depth with it. Think about it and have more time to plan it out. Of course, that's not up to the developers. That's Activision who forced them through. But hopefully, if they do continue this, they'll have more time to really think it through. Honestly, I think Treyarch would make a banging, not a banging open world campaign, because I don't want all the missions to be open world. But if they do a couple, maybe a few, I think Treyarch, with especially how they handle Easter eggs, would do a phenomenal job, especially if they have plenty of time to go ahead and put it together. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of my, no spoiler review. I'm going to go ahead and hop into some spoilers now. I'll try to remember to put it down in the comment section, timestamp it when the spoilers will, obviously come live here. I don't really have too many things I want to say in the spoilers. I just want to talk about the 3 events in this game. So again, thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you hated it, leave a dislike, subscribe, hit that bell, all that good stuff. Tune into my streams. I got the link to that stuff down below. But I'll catch y'all later for all the people who don't want to see the spoilers. But for everybody else, here we go. First and foremost, they really had to go ahead and force the death of Soap. I have to be honest with you guys. It felt completely forced. I was extremely disappointed. It doesn't matter who dies. We all want a death. But the way Soap dies makes me think that they were just feeling pressured. It's like, okay, the community's getting pissed off. Nobody's dying. Modern Warfare 2019, Alex comes back to life. Modern Warfare 2, nobody catches an L. Everybody's pissed off. We have to kill someone off, so we're just going to wipe him clean. The way Makarov so easily comes in there when you have a whole squad, you literally have a whole unit with you underground in the tunnels. Makarov walks right up to you, shoots Soap in the arm, he drops down, magically gets up behind him, and then he shoots him in the head again. Where the hell are all the people with you? And then after that, he runs off. He gets away. Bro, I understand they want this to extend and go into probably another game to milk out as much money as they can possibly get, but seriously, that's how you're going to go about it. This is what I was saying with the writing. It feels like it was forced and rushed. It didn't feel like they actually had time to plan this stuff out like they did back in the day. There was barely even emotion during the scene, and I understand, they're in combat. You don't mourn while you're in combat. You have to finish the mission and then you mourn about it later, but man, Modern Warfare 3 did such a better job. You felt it. You felt the emotion. You felt the impact. And then when Price finds out that you were partially a part of it, not part of it, you knew, man, it just, it was so much better. This was just so lackluster. And I felt nothing. Honestly, when Soap plopped down, I was like, okay, that's who died. Soap died. That's how I felt. And that's not how you're supposed to feel when one of the main characters gets taken down in the game. The writing just wasn't there for this. And it could have, once again, it could have been so much better, but it feels like it's treated as DLC. And, DLC isn't bad, because DLC is good a lot of the time, but this was rushed DLC, which makes it 10 times worse. Rewinding a little bit to the no Russian part of the mission, once again, extraordinarily lackluster. I understand they can't go crazy, but I was expecting so much more. They literally strapped a bomb onto a character that I don't think we ever seen before, but she knows Farah, and I will say this campaign is heavily inspired by Farah. I feel like this campaign felt like it was just specifically around her a lot. A lot of the missions were basically Makarov trying to pin everything on her country the majority of the time. So they find some random chick, somehow she is, magically aboard. I guess they tracked her timing when she got on board with the plane and decided to hop on the same time as her. I guess that's how it happened. They found her perfectly, no issues at all. She then takes the pistol from the guy who is holding her at gunpoint, plops down everybody, somehow loses the pistol, which she could have easily bodied the rest of the plane probably, and then she gets a bomb strapped on her forcefully. She runs to the back of the plane because, Makarov obviously chucks the phone back there, which she has to defuse the bomb with. And she's panicking because everybody else is panicking, obviously. It's a woman with a bomb strapped on her and a pistol. And she's seeing her waving the pistol around oh, move back, I need to get the phone, put the pistol down. If this is I understand, nobody in that situation, even without the pistol, if you see a bomb strapped on someone, you're going to panic. But she's walking up in there like it's going to be any different. It's just, again, it feels so freaking rushed. And it just wasn't eventful. No big boom. You didn't, you saw the plane explode, yeah, a little bit, but it just wasn't there. It's not as impactful as any of the other previous events. Even Modern Warfare 2019 had more impactful events, honestly, within the campaign than this one right here. But that's all personal preference. I would love to know what you guys think about the no Russian, take in this game. But honestly, you want to know what I think? I think during the dome mission, or whatever, the stadium, not dome, the stadium mission, because you get to play on Verdansk, which was actually kind of cool. Verdansk looked really nice. And seeing it alive with a bunch of people walking, it was kind of cool to see that. But I feel like that mission, instead of us coming in as Task Force 141, we should have came in as Makarov and his goons. That's what we should have came in as. That would have been a much better scenario. Again, I guess they just don't want to, have you shooting up everybody in the stadium. But they could have still strayed away from that. You don't have to shoot them up. You could have been Makarov. You could have been behind the scenes. Again, you catch Makarov and he's driving up to you with an ambulance. And honestly, Makarov didn't do anything in the stadium. You could have easily played as that, watched your quote-unquote teammates, because you're playing as Makarov, mow down everybody in the stadium. It'll be impactful. You'll feel it. You'll actually understand. And then when you switch back to Task Force, you'll want to kick his ass even more. But it just wasn't any eventful stuff. It was just so lackluster. And then he bombs the airport, which you see from afar, which, again, they're trying to give you the vibes of what we had back in the day, but it all feels so forced. It's like they're trying to hit you with wow factor, but it's forced wow factor instead of actually well-written wow factor. So it didn't feel like it was up to par, and these are some of the main reasons why the score is a little bit lower than I wanted it to be. And last but not least, frickin' Shepard in the final cutscene. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the best part of the whole campaign, honestly. But one of my homies, Chucky, brought up a fantastic point. What is up with the cutscenes 24/7? They keep taking away the power from the player. It's so uneventful. Like in all reality, they should have had us kill Shepard. We should have been the ones walking into the room, pointing the pistol up and plopping in between the eyes. We should have done that. The player should have done that. But instead, we get a whole cutscene where we watch, Price come in and shoot him in the head. Which, again, it's still good. I liked it. But what happened to the power to the player? Like, Modern Warfare 2 2009, the throwing knife, even though it was scripted, even though obviously it was basically a semi-cutscene at the end of the day, you were still controlling it. Even if you throw the throwing knife all the way to the left or all the way to the right or all the way in the bottom right corner of the screen, obviously the throwing knife will always magically go between Shepard's eyes. But it was you throwing it. It was you doing the action. Same thing with all Modern Warfare 3, same thing, you doing the action. It's always you. Now it's just cutscenes. It seems like instead of, trying to get good writing in and allowing the players to have fun, they just want to show off their engines. Like, oh yeah, our engines look fantastic. Our cutscenes are so well done. We put a lot of money into them. So instead of having the player do it, we're just going to make a cutscene for it and take advantage of, all the technology that we have, which isn't bad. The technology is good, but it just takes away from so much from the player. Like, it would have been so much more eventful, like I said, walking in and plopping down Shepard. Because again, Shepard is a scumbag. Soap would have never died, right? This is the whole idea. Soap would have never died if Shepard allowed Task Force 141 to search for Makarov when the plane got crashed down in the AC-130 mission. If they searched for him, they could have probably found him and ended it right there. Nobody would have died, right? And again, we don't want that to happen because then it takes away from, killing off one of the players, so on and so forth. I get why they didn't do that. But again, as the player playing all these missions and building up, you would want to be able to take down Shepard. You know that Shepard is the reason that Soap basically died. I guess not technically. It's not like, Shepard sent out a hit on Soap. But again, if Shepard allowed Task Force to search for Makarov, the story would have ended drastically different. So we all know that Shepard is a bad person for this. We all want to take him down. And instead of us being able to take him down, we have to watch a cutscene of him being taken down. Again, it just takes away from the fun vibes of the game. But that's really all I got to say about the spoilers, ladies and gentlemen. It was a really short campaign. It felt like DLC. And it could have been way better. Still fun to play, though. I enjoyed playing it, but I don't think it's worth the money. $70 is a little bit too steep for a campaign of this caliber. Again, I would watch a YouTube playthrough, watch your favorite content creator play it. Of course, if you guys want to see my playthrough, you can go to my Kick channel. I have VODs up all the time, which you guys can go back and see my previous playthrough. But of course, that is probably what I would suggest doing because it will save you a lot of money and a lot of time until they can further perfect the system here. Perfect the open world environments, perfect the writing, and perfect everything else, and hopefully not have another rushed project. But obviously, Treyarch's project isn't going to be rushed. This is the first time Treyarch has had a full development cycle in God knows how long since Black Ops 3. So I am actually pretty excited to see what Treyarch has in store, especially if it's based around the Gulf War. That's extremely interesting. And honestly, I think it will be pretty darn decent. But again, only time will tell. I'm not going to obviously have high expectations for it because we see what happens when Activision's in the picture. And even though Microsoft has bought out Activision, you have to keep in mind Treyarch's title has been built under Activision. So it doesn't matter if Microsoft's here now. Unless they want to go ahead and scrap the whole campaign and start with their leadership, then it's pointless. They're not going to do that, right? It's already been like 2-3 years of development under Activision. So we have to wait till either Sledgehammer's next game or Infinity Ward next game to get a Microsoft leadership perspective of, if they're actually going to change Call of Duty for the better. But as always, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's video, leave a like. If you hate it, leave a dislike. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell so you can stay notified on everything Modern Warfare 3. We're going to be covering every last bit of information that comes out for this game, and obviously when it drops, we'll be obviously covering all the bugs, glitches, good things, bad things, giving out improvement tips, how to get better at the game, so on and so forth. We have a lot of content planned, so of course, subscribe, hit that bell. And last but not least, check out my streams. I stream over on Kick every day besides Sundays. You can find a link to that down in the description of this video. That usually goes live around 12:30 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. But as always, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you on our next one. Peace out.